Hello, welcome back to the A2theK Wrestling Show with This Week in Wrestling. And as always, I will kick us off talking about Mundane Night Raw. With the card of the last week being Nia Jax visiting Alexa Bliss in Alexa's Playground to kick off the show. We then had Charlotte Flair taking on Nikki Cross, which resulted in a win for Nikki Cross by a countout. Riddle asks Jeff Hardy for some tag team advice. Riddle. And Orton tells him to not try and be another Randy Orton and to just be Riddle. And so Riddle's like, does that mean you like me, bro? Then we had John Morrison taking on Jeff Hardy, with John Morrison picking up the win. And then Cedric Alexander came out and was like, you're old. And then Jeff Hardy was like, well, if I'm so old, challenge me right now. And if I lose, I'll retire. And Jeff Hardy won, so he didn't retire. So none of it really made any sense.
I forgot to mention that when you get... Sorry, I'll let you do this, but there was something that probably should have been in the news that I totally forgot about. But fuck it, we'll talk about it in This Week in Wrestling. I'll let you finish this, but we'll mention that in a sec. Come.
Okay. Next, we had Naomi taking on the returning Eva Marie. Except it wasn't. It wasn't.
No.
Because Eva Marie was there, but then she was there with Unknown. That's right, the commentary team had no idea who this other woman is. Even though she's been with the company for many, many years on NXT UK, known as Piper, the Viper, Neven.
Do you know why she's unknown? Because they're not going to call her Piper anymore. They've given her a new name, haven't they?
Well, apparently so, but...
They didn't know what the fuck to call her. Because Vince hadn't decided yet.
Piper, a.k.a. Unknown Lady, ends up beating Naomi, and then Eva Marie gets the microphone and declares the winner of the match, Eva Marie. So, okay. Then we had... You think that was bad? The next segment, we had Dana and Mandy having a photo shoot backstage. And they're like, what's all that noise interrupting our photo shoot? And so they go and walk off camera and they see Natty and Tamina doing some training. And they're like, oh, sorry, is our training interrupting your photo shoot? And then they have like a little scrap inside this ring for no reason. So, yeah.
Okay.
We then had New Day taking on RK Bro. And RK Bro picked up the win. We then had Rhea Ripley taking on Asuka, with Rhea Ripley picking up the win and being attacked after the match by Charlotte. Then we had Alexa Bliss taking on Nia Jax, because in the earlier segment of the night, that basically became a thing.
Because anytime you're facing someone's tag team partner in a pay-per-view, you'll face them in like Raw or SmackDown or whatever show you happen to be on, because that's just how it works.
Well, exactly. And Alexa Bliss ended up picking up the win via a disqualification somehow. I can't remember how that even happened. We then
Fireballs, a doll.
Something like that.
Screens. Yeah. Who knows?
We then had Elias taking on Jackson Riker again, and Jackson Riker picked up the win by a countout again. So that's good.
Well, nice progression of their storyline.
And then the main event we'd all been looking forward to, Drew McIntyre taking on AJ Styles for some reason. That then turned into Drew McIntyre and the Viking Raiders taking on AJ Styles, Omos, and Bobby Lashley. And Drew McIntyre picked up the win by beating Bobby Lashley. Does that mean he's going to win the belt at Hell in a Cell? Well, we'll see soon. So yeah, that was the show. Highlights, Anthony.
Nice. And before you go to highlights, I wanted to have a quick talk about this. What should have been in the news, right? Rumor has it there is a new rule around WWE, a new rule instigated by Mr. McMahon, and that you can't have throwaway matches anymore. This is apparently going to be a new rule. You can't have a match that has no meaning at all, which means we're probably going to see an onslaught of like retirement matches, or I can no longer challenge for the belt matches, but everything has to have a purpose. You can't just have a match just to see two people go up against each other. What do you think of that possibility? Because the Jeff one reminded me of it, because that's apparently the kind of shit we're going to get now. When there's no title involved, then they're going to invent something to make it meaningful.
That just sounds like a load of shit, doesn't it? Let's be honest.
Well, I mean, there's always a place for a match of two people who haven't really got anything against each other, and it's just a match. That was just meant to happen anyway. You know what I mean? feuds were meant to build from that kind of stuff, and now
if that is true, that is baffling. It's only going to discredit the belts even more than they already are. At the minute, they're already just a little fucking, accessory that gets carried around. It doesn't mean anything anymore. But now it's going to be like, well, why should I get excited about a title match when, on Raw there was a, loser marries my cousin match, and, winner gets to swim with dolphins match? Like, why do I care about little gold belt anymore?
All your matches set in Florida. What's going on?
I don't know. First thing that comes to head. Yeah, I don't really get what that means. So yeah.
So just a little tidbit I meant to mention in the Ringside Reports, but I just had to mention it because the Jeff Hardy thing just smacked of it. It's like, why would it be a retirement match?
Well, that is just ridiculous if that's true. Yeah, wow. So yeah, that was Raw. It was awful, as per usual. The only highlight is New Day versus RK Bro, and potentially some of the backstage shenanigans leading up to that. They're probably similar to your thoughts on Roman being one of the only good things about SmackDown at the minute. RK Bro is probably one of the only good things about Raw, and even then it's kind of clutching at straws, unfortunately. But yeah, that's literally the only highlight that I had. In terms of O'Shites, it's just the same show again, right? And I feel like I'm stuck in some fucking god-awful Groundhog Day. We had Charlotte versus Nikki, which ended in a count-out again. We had Elias versus Riker, which ended in a count-out again. What? Seriously?
Yep. That's just how we roll now.
This is going to be part of my complaining when we talk about Hell in a Cell as well, but they're just redoing and rehashing the same shit over and over again. It's so fucking pointless. Like, literally there's no point to watching this show anymore. That's how bad it's become. We then have the fucking Eva Marie thing, and it's like, well, yeah, she brought someone new with her, so that I guess that's kind of a little bit exciting, but it was still shit. And like the whole thing with Eva Marie at the end going, and the winner is Eva Marie, and it's like, why is she back? Who did they how many people have they fired to give Eva Marie that spotlight there? For what reason?
I actually feel really bad for Piper Niven. Is it Niven?
I don't know, probably.
I feel like you pronounced it differently before, but I'm going to stick with Piper Niven.
That's probably me getting it wrong. I said Niven, I think.
But like, I feel really bad for her because, like, imagine you're going to get you pushed to the main show. You're going to be on the flagship show of WWE. You're going to be on Raw, and you're going to get no hype at all, and people are going to be expecting Eva Marie. So most people are going to be a bit like, "Who the fuck's this?" They're almost disappointed because they feel cheated. They feel cheated out of the thing that we actually did hype.
I believe as well. Why
have they done that to her?
Obviously, they brought her up. They didn't give her a name. I believe the name she might end up with is Dewdrop. So there you go on that one as well.
What the fuck is that?
I don't know. So yeah, we'll see if that becomes real life or not. Then we had Alexa Bliss versus Nia Jax. So yeah, as I said when I did the match rundown, I don't even remember how this ended properly. I just know it was some kind of DQ and Alexa won. But what I do remember is fucking Reginald again. What has Reginald got on Vince McMahon that he has to be fucking involved in everything? He's shit. Why is he on my TV screen so much? He's awful. Why is he there?
Don't know.
What, like?
Why did he only ever hang around the women's? Like, if it weren't scripted and he was hanging around the women's roster all the time, you'd probably pull him in and go look, you're creeping them all out. To be honest, Reg. It just I don't fully know his motivation for anything ever.
No, it's honestly horrendous. I honestly don't know how. Is this his third separate storyline now? Obviously, there's this one with Nia. Before that, it was Sasha. Wasn't he in something before that as well?
Yeah, well, he was Carmella's Somalia, whatever you call him.
Fuck's sake!
And then he decided he was infatuated with Sasha Banks, and then very quickly, because women are so interchangeable in the world of WWE, that he very quickly decided, no, it's Nia now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just Reg. That's what he's gonna do. Who next?
He's seriously.
He's like the Goldberg of the women's roster, isn't he? You're next.
God no! Same reaction that you have every time. But I just honestly, he's got some serious shit on Vince. He must have. There's no way he would be on TV, especially for the amount of fucking time he's on TV, unless he's got some absolute skeleton in Vince's closet somewhere.
He knows who really sent those bin bags.
He knows. just ominous. He knows. Like, just leave it there. Like, we can't even repeat what he knows. And then the final shite, unfortunately, has got to be Drew AJ and what it turned into. Like, it was going really good, and then it's just overcomplicated again. Turns into a 6-man for no reason, and it's like, well,
I like the really loose connection. Like, well, he's Scottish and they're Vikings. That could work, right?
I mean, they've done this before as well, so it's not even like it's another one-off.
Loosely the same. They're both rough around the edges. They both wear face paint sometimes. This could work.
Yeah.
Not the same thing, but whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, obviously Drew ends up getting the win, which I guess is meant to make you think, oh, well, he managed to pin Bobby Lashley going into Hell in a Cell. That means he can beat him. But if anything, it just kind of told you what the result was going to be.
In fact, it's almost the opposite now when you see them get the win. Like, that week before the pay-per-view, you go, fuck.
That's it. Well, I mean, it's because it's just 50-50 booking all the fucking time. And again, from the results of Hell in a Cell, that's why it was so easy for me to predict, is it's just 50-50 booking with everything they do. So this week, you know, Drew got a fucking pin over Lashley, so, at the pay-per-view, it's got to be Lashley. Spoilers, sorry.
Yeah, I think you had an unfair advantage on this prediction series, because half of SmackDown didn't appear on Hell in a Cell.
Well, that is also true, which is
fucking reason.
Baffling. But, yeah, I don't know, it was too overproduced. They tried to do too much with it. They swapped it, they changed it, and it went for like 30 minutes long as well, and it was just, too long. So, all in all, Anthony, it was a fucking awful show, considering this was like the Go Home Raw. Terrible.
Go home, Raw.
Yeah, literally, go home, Raw, you shit. Don't even go home, you're drunk, you just shit. So for me, it's lucky to get a 0.5. Terrible again.
Yeah, I like to disagree with you, I'll be honest. Not in like a bad way.
Well,
I do like to disagree with you sometimes. And I just can't bring myself to even like try and challenge you on it and give it a 1 just for the hell of it. Because there's just nothing here. There's nothing here to enjoy. You're quite right. It's just maybe RK Bro. I'd probably even agree with you on that. They're at least slightly amusing. They've absolutely ruined what Alexa Bliss is meant to be. I know some people are still fucking loving it, but like, don't be wrong, she's still very good at what she's doing character-wise, but what is she doing?
Yeah, it's
like,
awful.
In terms of action, she's fighting with Shayna Baszler. Like, why? Like, they've not got the titles anymore. Is that why? Like, we need something. It's just all really pointless, and I'm not. The rivalry's only as good as the other person involved, isn't it? Like, if Alexa had a really good story and rivalry going with someone that I was actually invested in, I might care that she's scared of the doll or whatever the shit they were doing. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, totally agree. There's nothing good here. 0.5.
Speaking of things where nothing's good,
actually,
NXT?
No, this was a solid week for NXT. I'll even spoil it now and say this was good. Right? Hear me out, Carl. As far as the card goes, right? We opened the night with William Regal coming out with a bit of an announcement. That basically, and I'll spoil it now, but we'll talk about it a little bit more. Samoa Joe is now going to be his enforcer, so that people will respect the position of William Regal. We then had a match between Breezango and Imperium, with Breezango taking the win. We saw Kushida go up against a Trey Baxter in his NXT debut, with Kushida taking the win. We saw, I'll just call it a segment, I don't know, with LA Knight over the $1 Million Championship, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. We saw Casey Catanzaro and Caden Carter going up against Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai, with Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai taking the win. We then saw Io Shirai attempting to announce who she's going to seek to fight next, with interruptions and all sorts of shenanigans going on. And then we closed the night out, Carl, with a tornado tag match between Tommaso Ciampa, Tim Thatcher, and the Grizzled Young Vets, with Tommaso Ciampa and Tim Thatcher taking the win. That was the card. Carl. So, highlights. I'll give it a shout out now. The opening segments with William Regal, the introduction of Samoa Joe, everything I think executed really well. I'm not quite sure what the overall aim is with Samoa Joe, because to give it in brief, if anyone's listening to me and haven't actually watched the show, which that's kind of cool if you go to us for your summaries, but we had William Regal talking about it not being respected and not feeling fit to be the GM. We had Karrion Kross insisting that he passed the power over NXT over to Karrion Kross, which is a bit unusual. Obviously, we then had Samoa Joe, the whole back and forth with, Samoa Joe's coming out, Williams saying he should be the GM. They end up reaching an agreement where, Regal will remain the GM and Samoa Joe will be there to enforce his rules as needed, essentially, to ensure that people give the correct respect. And the bit that intrigued me the most was this almost hinting towards a future feud, which I really hope is the case, where Samoa Joe tells Karrion Kross to get out of the ring, and he does, because he was willing to talk shit to William Regal, but maybe he thinks a little bit more about it when it comes to Joe. And that's what I'm super intrigued by, because the one of the rules William Regal gave was that he cannot participate in any matches, and he cannot basically end up in any physical altercations unless he's been provoked. So it almost feels like there's a storyline coming where he's not allowed to fight back, and eventually he will. And are they waiting for him to be cleared, and we're going to get this between Karrion Kross and Samoa Joe? And if so, is Joe going to be the person who takes him down? I'm actually super intrigued, so I enjoyed it. What do you make of it, Carl?
Yeah.
Do you like seeing Joe back?
Yeah, it's nice. I am a big fan of Joe. I just think what a clusterfuck the whole thing was. He got moved up, and then he's like an announcer. Then he got fired, and now he rocks up again on NXT, and now he's an enforcer.
So many people who believe that he's on NXT, you forget about all that shit, don't you? But it was totally fucked up the way they did it. But so many people are so happy to see him back on NXT, which is where he thrived, to be fair.
Yeah, I think.
So let's pretend the other shit didn't happen.
I was a bit disappointed in a sense of the whole but you can't lay your hands on anyone unless you provoke, because now we're just going to get weeks and weeks of, he's almost provoked but not too much because I'm not touching you, can't get mad, and it's just going to go on and on and on, and then eventually, it's just.
I know, it's reminded me of Friends massively then. That's the essence of the chair.
So I don't know.
I want him and Karrion just to do those skits now.
Okay, I mean, don't put the ideas in the heads
for the next few weeks.
Hell. They need something else after the $1 million championship now, don't they?
No, let's talk about that.
There you go.
But yeah, no, I'm super intrigued. I'm made up to see Joe back, and a really good way to open the show as far as I'm concerned. Solid. The next shout out I want to give is to the match between Kushida and Trey Baxter. Now, this gets a shout out firstly because I think Kushida has been nothing but awesome since he come back and since he won the title. This match was for the title, by the way, Cruiserweight title. But Kushida's still looking awesome and still looking dominant. But what I really liked about this wasn't a typical, I don't know who the other guy is, so it's going to be a squash. Trey Baxter got some offense in here, and he looks really promising, and he did a really effective job of keeping Kushida sort of shit hot in his title run, but also giving this guy enough intrigue and enough offense for me to go, well, let's keep an eye on this fella. Do you know what I mean? I know me wrong, they're trying to maybe go towards Kyle O'Reilly and Kushida for some reason, but I don't want to talk about that. I just want to talk about how well executed.
You can't just paper over the cracks and see what you want to see.
No, but the Kushida Trey Baxter match itself was actually really good and very effective in what it needed to do. It made him look dominant, but not too dominant to the point that it's totally detrimental to this up and comer. So I just needed to give it a highlight for that very reason.
Okay.
And nothing happened with Kyle O'Reilly. Never saw him. The last highlight I want to give, Carl, is the Tornado tag match itself, the main event, if you will. This may be a bit of sort of shine, because how often do you get to see Tornado tags? How often do you get to see them executed quite well? Because shout out to the Grizzly Young Vets more than anyone in the use of the stipulation, because I feel like they looked really good in this match. I mean, everyone looked decent in this match, but I don't know. I think they've been a well-established tag team with each other for a while anyway, so I think they probably shone just that little bit more. But all in all, I wasn't disappointed with these 4 participants, and it's nice to see a fun, slightly different stipulation happening. And to be honest, a slightly different main event happening as well. So, again, shout out to the main events, to the Tornado tag. Decent, good fun. Not sure where it's all going to go, but there you go. Well, I know where it's all going to go. Probably Tommaso and Tim going up against MSK at some point.
Mm-hmm.
All good fun. What did you make of the tag match, Carl? I know you're not a big fan of anyone in NXT ever.
I mean, I've got a lot of thoughts about the show. I don't know whether you want me to do it now or whether it comes to the main, the bit at the end.
How bitter are your thoughts?
How bitter?
Are they positive?
Oh no, they're not positive. You know me well enough to know when we talk about NXT.
We'll move on to the O'Shites and you can give your thoughts then, because it sounds like they're probably going to be mostly that.
Okay, that sounds good to
me. So I actually didn't really have any O'Shites. I had maybe one O'Shite, and that was the $1 million stuff. And essentially, for those again who didn't watch it, we had LA Knight being bequeathed the title from Ted DiBiase, which was a little confusing because I thought he got that at the pay-per-view, but whatever. And then he turns on Ted DiBiase and lays him out, as you do. And we're going to turn Cameron Grimes' face, even though he just, by existing and just because of his face, he is unlikable. So I'm not quite sure how he's going to do well as a face. Weirdly, I don't know, people seem to be getting behind the man. When you look on social media, when you look at sort of reactions, you go, I don't know, is he going to do well as a face? But we're not done with this feud. For some reason, the $1 million title is a title that you can defend now, Carl, because that's basically what's going to happen. You know, Cameron Grimes is going to win this off LA Knight. And I don't know, this might be unfair because I've probably not seen enough of him yet, but this is sort of some of the problem. I actually don't get the hype behind LA Knight. I found him a bit fumbly on the mic when he was talking, when he was sort of playing the deceiving heel role. He's given Ted DiBiase all the props and then turning on him. I didn't see a lot in him for me, and I don't get why he's so sort of like, wow, this guy. I don't get it. Maybe I'm missing something. I didn't know him outside of WWE, so that might be a factor. But I don't know. I'm still not totally involved or enamored with this whole $1 million shite anyway. So yeah, that's me main O'Shite. And I'll go as far as to say me only O'Shite. I briefly mentioned the Kyle O'Reilly involvement, but that's just because it's one of them where he's not my cup of tea. Like, you know, people might.
All right, Lana.
I'm gonna spill the tea everywhere. But no, I'm not a fan of him. So the minute that they're suggesting, we could have this feud between Kushida and it could be a really good feud. Some people might love it. So I don't want to call it an O'Shite because it's just a personal taste of mine that I'm not a big fan of the guy. So it is what it is. So that's it for me. I'll move the talking stick over to you, Carl.
Well, thank you.
And you can.
Just another whole lot of nothing. Right. Seriously? We just come out of a takeover. Other than Joe turning up. What the fuck was this show? What was it about? What did it have to do with anything? Standard NXT again, isn't it?
No. I want to defend NXT on this point, Carl. I want to defend NXT from you, right? Because this is the type of thing. That I would be a lot more aggrieved if we had this sort of card before Takeover. Right, but the fact is, Takeover dealt with a few stories, so you have to then almost start afresh, or try and re-cement some things that you want to continue to go on. But there's not going to be a lot of heat coming off Takeover because they kind of closed the books on a lot of stuff there. So I don't mind that there was a whole lot of nothing because we need to start establishing some other stuff now.
Except it didn't do that. It was just a card that was full of just random thrown together matches that won't lead to anything.
Breezango and Imperium, that was random, yes. Right, Kushida versus Trey Baxter, arguably the match itself was random, but we're hinting towards Kyle O'Reilly versus Kushida, so that's fine. LA Knight was a clear shot towards continuing his feud with Cameron Grimes, as much as I don't fucking like it. We saw the Casey Catanzaro and Caden Carter match. They're clearly hinting towards who's going to be going next for the women's tag scene, so they were trying to get some development there. Io Shirai's was all about who's going to face Io Shirai next, and we don't know, but apparently there's many possibilities. And the Tornado tag was clearly a move towards Tommaso and Tim Thatcher going against MSK. Even the opening promo, Samoa Joe seems to be hinting towards something over the main title. The only thing that never really got any development for me was the North American title.
But yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, I don't think we can even class it as development. I think they were just matches that happened in them divisions, and so I mean, let's see come the next takeover whether any of this shit from right now makes it into takeover. Because I bet it won't.
This down somewhere, Carl? Can we write this down? I'm super intrigued by this now, and this isn't me trying to argue the toss here. I think we should note this down and see how many things are hinted at here that just don't pan out.
Yeah, I think the only two things I can potentially see, like doing something, will be with Samoa Joe and Karrion Kross, which I didn't have a problem with. I thought that was good, and probably continuing something with the $1 Million Championship between them two.
That will probably take top fucking billing at the next takeover. To be honest with you, they seem so fucking into it.
Like, I don't think we can hang our hat yet on Ciampa and Thatcher just because they beat the Grizzled Young Vets either. So I just think there were matches that happened, and it's easy to go, we finished a takeover, so we're starting afresh, but we're not. We finished a takeover, and we've got fuck all that's come off the back of it, and so we're just throwing a load of matches together. That's all that happened. It was just standard NXT. You can't really go, the matches were bad, because they weren't, and you can't really say anything, super bad about it, other than the fact of shit happened. Cool. That is NXT.
I can't argue with you on a level, right? And my rating will reflect, as much as I'm not speaking too ill of this NXT, I can't give it a high rating for that very reason, because it wouldn't be fair, because it hasn't wowed me. I haven't sat here and gone, that was fucking brilliant. It was a really good card. Like, this would get strictly for me middle of the road, and it was still a good card. There was some good matches. It was not a bad night. But like you say, there's not a lot there either. Like, what did I come out of it? Like, fuck, there's some really awesome things going on there. That was amazing. Like, when you look at some of the times we've walked away from just a standard weekly show and gone, fuck, didn't see that coming. That was awesome. So yeah, I mean, as much as I'm not probably as against NXT as you this week, I'd be interested to see where our ratings go, because mine, and I'll spoil it now, would be about 2.5. It would be strictly middle of the road. It was a solid week, but it wasn't. And it didn't wow me.
So I'm going to go a full point lower. Oof. Only gets a 1.5 for me, and
that
I think
is savage.
And I think it is literally just because there's no continuity from Takeover. Like, I like the stuff with Samoa Joe and Karrion Kross. That was cool. Everything else that happened though was, again, you can't go, the match quality was bad, because it wasn't. But it was just list of matches. It was like the thing with NXT is it just lacks that. I mean, I don't want to say continuity again. There's got to be another word for it, but this is no different than me just going, do you know what? I haven't watched Ring of Honor in about a year. Let me switch it on. Some cool matches there. Means nothing, because nothing follows on to nothing. So yeah, 1.5.
It lacks a certain je ne sais quoi.
Je ne sais quoi. Je ne sais. Yeah, that's the one.
I mean, it still beat Raw.
Oh yeah, God, yeah.
In order of watching, guys, Raw's still very much at the bottom.
Well, that's it. I've shocked you by saying it's a whole point lower than what you gave it, but it's a whole point higher than what I gave Raw. So,
And yeah,
that isn't much.
I'm not even going to gripe too much. I can totally get your points. I'm not. I just don't see the. I don't see the issue as much, and I've obviously we've debated that a little bit, but I don't think it's a bad thing coming out of Takeover without much to carry on with. I think we now need to start building, and I am super intrigued, and we need to write this down so we don't forget, but I am super intrigued to see how much of the stuff that they're hinting at, or maybe starting here, actually comes out in the next Takeover. That'd be interesting.
Let's do it. I will eat another hat if I am completely wrong.
No, I think it'd be an interesting study to see how many things WWE drop along the way that you kind of just forget about because it was so early doors.
Okay. Now, what I would normally do, Anthony, is I would say, and on to Dynamite, and isn't it that good, and all this kind of stuff. Wasn't good. So I'm just going to preface it with that as well.
That is a strong bold
statement. So here's the card for Dynamite this week. Kicking off the show, we had an MMA rules match. Jake Hager took on Wardlow. Jake Hager
in a one-sided fight, because Jake Hager's an actual MMA fighter, but whatever.
Oh no, it was this fucking carnage as you like. But yeah, Hager did pick up the win, making it 1-on-1 in terms of their little blood feud. So I think we will get a follow-up at some point. Then we had
the next pay-per-view, Blood Feud. AEW Blood Feud.
Blood and Guts feud. 2. Revenge at the beach. So Jungle Boy, he makes his entrance to the arena and gets attacked by Kenny Omega and Michael Nakazawa. Okay, We then had a 2-on-1 match for some reason with Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page teaming up against Darby Allin. Surprisingly, the underdog didn't overcome the odds because he lost. So Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page did pick up the win. We had Orange Cassidy.
You've got to be a point when you're super realistic here, because Darby Allin couldn't beat those two, so that makes sense.
Yeah, finally. We then had Orange Cassidy taking on Cesar Bononi, with Orange Cassidy picking up the win. I haven't put it in my highlights, but I'll just say it now, briefly while we talk about it. But Peter Avalon's so fucking funny. At the end of the match, Cesar was just like laid out, and he just holding him like he'd just been killed, and he was just going, no. I love him. He's so funny. We then had Matt Hardy and Christian Cage in a backstage scuffle. That's right, straight out of Impact from how many years ago, or WWE from even more years ago.
Oh, we didn't go brawl.
Just a scuffle. Just a bit of fisticuffs, if you will, and then he locks him in a cage because he's Christian Cage.
Cage in a cage.
Yeah. Then we had the debut of Brock Anderson, Arn Anderson's son, teaming with Cody Rhodes to take on QT Marshall and Aaron Solo. And Brock Anderson picked up the win for his team. The rookie. Then we had a
Nightmare Family, yes.
He is, of course. I mean, it's hard to tell who isn't at this point, so just assume they are, unless we are told they aren't. Then we had a Lance Archer and Jake Roberts sort of promo thing that happened. I felt like I'd gone back like a year, but not in a good way. It was just the same shit.
We're back here, are we? It's a shame because I love Jake the Snake.
I know. I love Jake. Legend. And you know what?
He's a boss talker, and now we're like, that was weak.
Well, that's it. Like, I love Jake. I love Lance. I just don't get how they dropped the ball with these guys for over a year now. But we'll come on to that. We have an interview. Jim Ross.
Of course.
Interviews.
Because somebody debuted, didn't he? So we need to then sit down with him 100 times.
Well, that's it. Andrade El Idolo was interviewed by Jim Ross. Sorry for the sneeze halfway through there. Oh no, that's his name. Yes. So that happened. We then have Penelope Ford in the ring for the first time in God knows how long, taking on Julia Hart.
What a random matchup.
I know, and it was good. Penelope Ford picked up the win. I enjoyed it. Then we had Vicky Guerrero backstage confronting Britt Baker, and has basically said, because she brought Andrade El Idolo to AEW, that Tony Khan owed her a favour, and therefore she makes a match where it's going to be Britt Baker and Reba, or Rebel, taking on Nyla Rose and Vicky Guerrero. Do we believe that?
That ain't happening.
Well, let's see. Then we
had female, maybe.
Well, we'll go on to that when we talk about the highlights. We then had a promo package for Santana and Ortiz and FTR, which was a good promo package, but I had no idea why they put it on because, as far as I'm aware, no match has been announced between them at any point. So,
whoops,
yeah, weird. And then the main event of the evening was Eddie Kingston teaming with Penta and Frankie Kazarian to take on just Matt Jackson and the Good Brothers, with Matt Jackson and the Good Brothers picking up the win. Yeah, no Nick in this case. That was the card. Pretty weak. The highlights. So, surprisingly, the MMA fight, I liked it. So, I said before, it was very carny, very corny. There was points in there where, Wardlow's just whipping out Hurricane Ranas and just, like, doing a spear and stuff. And it's just like, this is so funny. But it was good. Like, it was a better MMA bout than I've ever seen before in a pro wrestling
in a wrestling capacity, yeah.
So they did stay somewhat true to it, but then it just it went a bit crazy at the end. But all in all, I thought it was good. It was different, and yeah, it was good. And I like the fact that it's brought them to one apiece now. So hopefully we will get that final match between the two, and hopefully it'll have some pretty high stakes on the line, because I think they're both really good. To be fair, Jake Hager's been really underappreciated and underutilized in his career, so it's good to see him get a bit of time. And I think Wardlow, he's going to be a star. That guy, like, he's got everything. So if he continues to improve and get the exposure in these different things, then it's only going to be good for him. Then the Andrade interview was good. Now it does annoy me when Mexicans, people do like.
Oh fucking hell! This is a danger. Go on.
No, it annoys me when they do half the interview in English and then they do middle of it in like Mexican and then they come back to English, and I don't know. It's like just speak the one language, because it just well, it just happens all the time. And I'm not being funny. Like Rey Mysterio is the worst for it. He's fluent in English, and he'll just be like, "Yeah, my son Dominic," and then we're going. It's like, what are you? You can speak English. What are you doing? Like, you haven't just said what you just said in English, but in Mexican. You've not like why do that? It's like us doing this podcast. If I just in a minute just start speaking French, why? Like, why would I do it? It just doesn't make any sense, right? So,
I need to say though, I honestly think if my native tongue wasn't English, and I was being, let's say you put the shoe on the other foot, and I for whatever reason was trying to do a wrestling show, I'm trying to think of a country that I'd really struggle with the language with, but let's say I'm trying to do a wrestling show in Spain, right? And they're like, you have to do your interview and your promo in Spanish. I would probably slip back into English a few times myself, in all fairness, because it's just my natural tongue. You know what I mean? So I don't know, because it seems to be almost like a staple, like you say, every wrestler does it, even like the likes of Rey Mysterio, who's very much fluent, as are his kids. So I don't know if it's I don't know, almost like a stylistic thing when they do that, or like a nod to that sort of that heritage or whatever. But I don't know. For me, I would definitely do that by accident quite a lot. So, and I don't think that's what's happened here. I'm just saying, I'd probably slip back into my native tongue quite a lot.
I mean, I could understand it if you did the whole interview in Mexican and then you finished off with a quote in English or something, or like a catchphrase, or that'd be so cool. Yeah, cool. But it's when it's just English to Mexicans, English to Mexicans, and it's just like, why? It makes it so hard to follow. And also, right, I'm not being funny. Isn't he? How long's he been with Charlotte Flair now? They can't even fucking speak. Like, what did he talk about? What did he do?
They don't talk.
Just El Idolo. Woo! That's pretty much all that happens in that household. But anyway, I kid. Interview itself was really good. What also happened was he teased, obviously, that there was going to be a big surprise. Now, that makes me think, why would Vicky Guerrero put herself in a match unless she's going to be unveiling Zelina Vega? Like, please.
It'd be, yeah. Do you know what the most intriguing element of that is? Zelina Vega was a really good manager / wrestler, and she was really good at being a mouthpiece for Andrade.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be super intrigued if she's going to join the fold as another acquisition of Vicky's, and Vicky is overall all of their managers, and she's going to do more wrestling. Because that wouldn't have been the capacity I thought she'd be coming over in. But if she's going to be this surprise sort of participant in this match, and it's not Vicky, that would feel like the inference is that Vicky's going to be her manager as well, and she's now got Nyla, Zelina, and Andrade. So I'm intrigued to see where they go with it, but I think a lot of people were kind of hoping and expecting that ultimately Zelina would be his mouthpiece again, because she was very good at doing that.
I mean, to be fair, that could potentially... No, I mean, that could potentially still happen. I think it might be that Vicky ends up being her manager, but when Andrade comes out, she just is the one that accompanies him, kind of thing. So
yeah.
It's like a valet / manager type thing. But yeah, so all in all, I don't mean to offend or take the piss, but yeah, the interview itself was a bit hard to follow at times, when I just wish he would just fucking say something. Even if he's not very well versed, just try and say something. But yeah, all in all, I enjoyed it, and it is a highlight. And then my last highlight was just Penelope Ford. It's just good to see her on the telly,
We've been saying this for a long time. She's super fucking talented, and for whatever reason, she doesn't do a lot of wrestling. Don't know why
she was so good as well. And fair play to Julia Hart. She's only 19 or something like that, so you could tell.
For those who aren't recognising the name, she's the part of the Varsity Blondes.
She certainly is, and obviously they were both at ringside. I have got a lot of things that were at fault with this as well, though, but I just wanted to call out Penelope was really good. It was like a squash match without it being a squash match as well. It gave Julia time to try and get some stuff in and get her some TV time.
This is exactly the type of credit I was giving NXT. I love it when it's not an all. Don't be wrong, there is a time and a place for an all-out squash. When you, all fairness, when you're pushing a monster like Braun Strowman and he just comes out and squashes a local talent, or whatever, to prove a point. I get that. But with people like Julia, who she's going to be on the roster for a while by the looks of it, she's part of the Varsity Blondes and they want to push her as a character in herself, it wouldn't do any good for her to be completely squashed. So I love when they let them get a bit of offense in like that, and they actually, like you say, they let them display a bit of talent even though they're going to take the loss. I think that's a really good way of doing it.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, agreed.
On to the O'Shite, so Anthony. There's a few of them. So firstly, the 2-on-1 match. Like, the match itself was okay. It's not a slight so much on the match, but why did it need to happen? All it kind of did was prove almost that Darby, who's this guy that they've been building up for God knows how long now, is that he needs Sting. He needs his daddy.
Well, clearly you've took the sting out of his tail, as it were.
Hey, I like it. I like the way you dropped the coven. See where the coven drop. But yeah, I don't get the purpose of it. Like, I know obviously this is building from stuff that's happened where they threw him down the stairs, and then they had the tag match, and last week or the week before, Darby was like, I need to do this by myself, and it's like, but what? Like, why is Tony Khan sat there going, yeah, I'll book a 2-on-1 match for you? Like, doesn't make any sense. I just don't get why it needed to happen. And obviously Darby's shtick is he's the underdog, and we get it.
Yeah,
but this
Darby's shtick is he's like a young Jeff Hardy, so naturally he has to be against the odds all the time.
So I don't know. It just didn't land for me, this one, and I think it just backfired because it didn't make Darby look strong or better. It made him look weak because Sting wasn't there, and that isn't the type of thing that Sting should be bringing to his career at this point, I don't think. So yeah, the other one, I mentioned this before briefly. So guess what? Lance Archer's angry again.
Oh no, he's turned into some sort of monster
with a murder hawk. But we're literally a week or two away from him throwing people out from the backstage area or throwing them into ceilings and stuff again. That's how far we have regressed with this character.
Fuck's sake, Lance, have a Snickers.
Exactly. How has this guy stood still for a year? He's no further along. He's doing exactly the same shit. He's got Jake the Snake fucking Roberts as his mouthpiece. He's really talented in the ring. He's got the size. He's got the look, and he's
got the look.
Shit. All he's done for a year, probably nearly 2 years, is just pace around and be angry. And here he is, still doing that again with still no direction or purpose. I feel for the guy. It's awful.
Maybe that's why he's angry.
Yeah.
There's no way he's going.
Fuck's sake, Tony! What's going on, Tony Khan? They were right. You can't book shit. So, yeah, annoyed by that. I was also annoyed, Anthony. So I was happy, obviously, Penelope got the match, and Julia Hart, nice to see her get a bit of ring time. But Miro comes out after the match, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not going to let Penelope be on her own because Kip is injured. So." It wouldn't. What kind of man would I be if I let Penelope be on her own with these 3 people? Which didn't make any fucking sense.
Break away from this.
Well, yeah. Firstly, he fucking broke Kip's arm and then fucked off. He's not even with these guys anymore. Secondly, she wasn't in any harm or anything. It wasn't like they were ganging up on her. The match had finished.
Miro, have you met these 2 guys?
Exactly.
Really nice guys.
Yeah, they're really genuinely sweet dudes. Okay. And he comes out and basically just tries to obliterate all of them. And it's all just so they could set up a match with Flying Brian Pillman. And it's well, okay, that was really convoluted. That didn't need to happen. I just don't get it. Every other week, it's just, well, this person is now the challenger for the TNT title, and that works fine. So if you want to give Brian Pillman the shot, just do it. Why do you have to create and force a storyline out of nothing?
Yeah.
Didn't.
And we all know it should have been young Griffith Garrison who got the match.
It fucking should have been, fuming. You'll note,
not against
Anthony,
Brian, but we have a certain affinity for Griff. He's a legend.
You'll note as well, I am not going to call out Cody Rhodes as an O'Shite this week. I didn't enjoy it.
Ooh, can I?
But it wasn't an O'Shite. So just so you know. And again, I do like Cody. I know people don't think it. I just know he's capable of better.
No, the problem is,
I'm not angry, just
disappointed.
disappointed.
The overall problem with Cody, right? You like Cody, and I like Cody. But we can never like Cody as much as Cody likes Cody, and that's the problem.
Exactly. It's a tough measuring stick, that, unfortunately. I haven't put it on my notes, but I am going to say it just as I go back through the card. I also thought the Kenny Omega Jungle Boy stuff was flat again this week. Now, they made a mistake the previous week where they gave him the microphone and it wasn't the best showing for Jungle Boy. This week, it was sort of similar again. Like, he rocked up and then it was like, Omega was, oh, I'll give you the first punch, I want you to fight me now. And all he kept saying was like, so you want me to punch you? And he's like, yeah, come on. So you want me to hit you? Which is like, ah, man, like, let him do better promo work than this.
You want me to lift my hand and hit you in the face?
Exactly. And then it took him like 10 seconds to like tie his hair up and do whatever he needed to do, and then he got jumped by Nakazawa, and it was just like,
look, I'm sure he's like a lovely guy, right? But, and this is a weird connection to make, but like I saw him on A Shot of Brandy, and when you go, well, that's like quite a free environment. You can be yourself. You can have a bit of banter. You don't have to like worry about the whole being in character thing. It's like a YouTube thing that she does, and you just have a laugh, cook some food, and have a chat. And even in that, he was kind of a little bit awkward and not much of a talker. So I'm like, yeah, he's not really got the mic skills.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not going good, unfortunately. And the last thing that didn't go good, Anthony, was the main event. Just very meh. Now, it's another multi-man match, and it's just getting a bit old how it's like, oh, well, you just know one of the Bucks is going to, show up, or there'll be like the number advantage from somewhere, and just the same shit again. Like, the Bucks steal the win, then it's like the heels are like beating them down and like spraying the stuff, and it's just, seen it one too many a time for my liking.
You might say they're in the bad books.
Hey, but yeah, unfortunately, this was probably the worst episode of Dynamite I've ever seen. And
wow.
it is. I don't know whether they're just not putting that much effort in because it's been switched around and moved to Fridays and stuff because of like the NBA and things. And
following WWE's approach.
Well, exactly. But you can't let them off for it. It was really subpar, and I'm going to put it on par with NXT because I think, NXT had the better matches, but it just was a bit meh. Whereas this had probably better story developments and better stuff going on, but it just, the matches and stuff felt a bit lacking as well. So, all in all, 1.5, the lowest score I've ever given Dynamite. Shame.
I'm... Oh, sorry. Can I just ask one thing? You never mentioned Matt and Christian in either your highlights or those shites. Did you have any feelings towards it?
Yeah, it's just like middle of the road. Yeah. I think they brought Christian over. We know that we're going to get Christian versus Kenny at some point. They don't want to bring Christian over straight away and put him into a title feud because everyone will be like, just another WWE
TNA 2003 all over again.
Exactly. So then all they've done is actually gone and done TNA 2003 all over again by having Christian and Matt in a weird feud together. So it was it happened.
Rating wise, I'm a little bit torn. And I think I'm going to have to follow your approach, because in my head throughout this whole discussion and throughout your run through, I was thinking, this is a 2. This is a 2 for me. And I'm like, was it really half a point worse than NXT as far as my ratings go? No. So I'm probably going to have to go 2.5, because I do think, for the very same reason as yourself, it was on par with NXT for different reasons. So it should score the same as NXT. And if I'm going to be fair and say NXT was middle of the road, it was enjoyable, but didn't have that wow factor, I think this is exactly the same tale. So I'm going to give it a 2.5 on that basis.
Okay. I think poor wrestling over the last few months has broken you. I think you need to go watch an old school Attitude Era cool episode, and then you'll be like, this is what good was.
Sit there watching old Attitude Era. I'll get the network for a few weeks and I'll be like, this shit's awesome! And I'll come back just bitter as I ever was.
Pretty much as I expect.
But no, come on. It like you say, it's hard to get around. It must be really disappointing for you, because we both really enjoyed AEW for a long time. But obviously you're the guy who covers AEW on our show, and this is like the first time you have to give them such a bad rating. So I can understand we're not mad, we're just disappointed.
It hurts. It hurts more than anything.
Hurts more than the business.
Yeah.
Anywho, so then we talk about SmackDown. Let's cheer ourselves up and talk about SmackDown. No? Okay. So we open the night with a promo from Roman Reigns and Rey Mysterio, because obviously can't open the show without Roman. I actually do genuinely, I believe that is a rule now, that he must open the show, but whatever. This sets up, obviously, Roman's like, I'm going to throw your kid surprisingly far out of the ring. And Ray's like, I don't want you to do that. I don't like that you did that. So I'm now mad at you. And he was like, what are you going to do about it? And he was like, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do about it. We're going to have a match tonight. And that's basically what the promo was. That's how he did it. Apparently, for some reason, we're going to have a Hell in a Cell match on SmackDown, because it can't wait for the pay-per-view. Too much at stake.
What is that about?
And I don't know if I've missed something. I really don't. But why couldn't this be on the pay-per-view?
I have no idea.
Why? This is one of the bigger. This would have been one of the bigger matches on the pay-per-view, and they did it on SmackDown. I'm so confused by this.
Yeah.
So that's what the opening promo did. Set that shit up. I think obviously this was ratified by Sonya or Adam or whoever's in charge this week. Whatever. And then we had Big E and Kevin Owens going up against Apollo and Aziz. Yes, I'll use his new name. Can't call him Dabba-Kato anymore because we don't know that it's Dabba-Kato. Totally different fella. So we had Commander Aziz in a tag match with Apollo. I don't really think we see him in the ring all too often, like actually participating in a match and not just screwing people over. So, fair play to that. And it was actually Apollo and Commander Aziz who took the win. We saw Shinsuke Nakamura going up against Baron Corbin. Was that a bit of deja vu you're getting, Carl? Yes, it is, because it's the 5th time we fucking had this now in 6 weeks. Anyway, Shinsuke took the win this time.
I was just going to say, how have we seen this match 5 times and it still hasn't really got any better?
Well, this is one of the biggest complaints I've got, and this is why I keep thinking, when you people talk about like how good SmackDown is compared to everything else, take Roman out of it and tell me that same fucking statement. Like, yeah. 6 weeks and we've had this match 5 fucking times, and has anything changed? No, it's been 50-50. Someone took the win, someone didn't, so on. And this was a battle for the crown this time, apparently, or whatever. Shinsuke won, so I assume, is it done? Maybe not. Who fucking knows? This felt like another... No, we'll talk. I'll do the run-through first. Sorry. We then saw Bianca Belair cut a promo about the fact that she's going to have a match with Bayley.
Mm-hmm.
And then we closed the night out with a Hell in a Cell match between Roman Reigns and Rey Mysterio, with Roman taking the win in rather decisive fashion. So that was the card. Quite a short one because we had quite a long match, right? Now, highlights for me, main event. The Hell in a Cell match itself was fucking good. So good that it does still puzzle and disappoint that it wasn't actually on the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. But nevertheless, we got to see a really good match between these two. I've probably give Ray stick in the past. I moan about most people, so chances are I have. But both of them really put on a really good match together, and this was exactly what it needed to be. And it just proved this whole, like, just Roman being just a dick. Like, he gets a submission victory, then he locks a submission in again. He wishes Ray happy Father's Day because he's an asshole. He's just awesome, and the whole match was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I don't know where they're going to go now, because obviously throughout the night we still sowed a bit of discord with Jimmy and Jay and all this, so something's happening there. What I like, and I don't know if this was deliberate, Carl, and I don't know how you feel about it, is 2 people in recent years have really dominated Ray. Since he's come back as this legend, like in his latest run, as you were, and that the other one was Seth, who obviously damaged his eye, and I like the parallel that, like, Roman has dealt with Rey Mysterio quite quickly and in quite a dominant fashion, in the same way that Seth was kind of doing the same thing in his heel run, to the point that I do think we're slowly burning towards this Roman versus Seth, and I just love the subtle parallels, if that is what they're doing. If it's purely coincidental, then fair enough, because let's face it, sometimes people have the same match with someone else. I don't know. But I'm hoping it's deliberate in some way. And I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued where we're going to go with Roman. And literally, he wasn't at the pay-per-view because we dealt with it on SmackDown. So it's like, what's next now we've dealt with Ray? Is Ray dealt with? I think so. Like, it's one of them things. I was actually a little bit worried that Ray was going to take the win because he hasn't managed to avenge his son. And you go, well, you're going to leave it at that? Is it that's going to be the finish? He's like, yeah, you ain't going to do nothing, you little bitch. Is that how they're going to do it? And turns out, yeah. Oh, so far anyway. Intrigue. So yeah, definitely massive highlight for me was the main event. Other highlights, less. It wasn't even mentioned on my card, so I'll have to explain this. Was just this very slight showing of Alpha Academy again this week. I think it was Angelo Dawkins this time because obviously they took out Montez Ford last week. But Alpha Academy, I actually think they have the makings of a really good heel tag team. And this is the best I've seen Otis because I really fucking hated the Heavy Machinery version of Otis. So I want to give a highlight where highlights due. I think seeing them sort of attack Angelo and carry on that whole heel persona and hopefully go into a tag team title run at some point. I like it. It looks good. I don't know how you feel about Alpha Academy, Carl.
You know what? I'm a big fan. Yeah, I much prefer the more serious kind of, badass Otis than gyrating fucking Chris Farley wannabe Otis from last year. So yeah, interesting new look as well. Just makes him look a whole lot more punchable, I thought.
It does, which is effective when you're a heel, isn't it? I think it's probably a shame for him. Like in his previous run, he had Mandy Rose with him, and now he's got Chad. So make of that what you will. I don't know what he was happier with. But no, the pair, genuinely though, the pair of them make for a really good team, and for something that felt like they'd thrown it together because they got rid of Tucker, I was quite surprised. But yeah, I think it works really well. I prefer this so much to Heavy Machinery. I know some people were behind Heavy Machinery from NXT days, but their main roster stuff was just not good.
Just not good.
Just not good. So let's talk about. Well, you know what? I don't know if you have any other shites, Carl, but I'm only going to really moan about one thing, right? Because let's face it, there wasn't much of a card there, if we're honest. And even the IC title scene, as much as it's the same for people, and this is the whole repetitive thing, which seems to be a theme of this week when we talk about the news, when we talk about every other show, it's this repetition. And yeah, that was one, but the most offensive one, I've kind of already moaned about it, was Corbin and Shinsuke. Like, what? Like, can this be done? I really fucking hope this is done. I really do. Because there's no way you can keep this going now. They had this battle for the crown, or whatever the fuck they called it, which, I don't know, this may have been meant for the pay-per-view and just never... Because this could have been a pre-show thing, probably. But please be done. Please be done with it. Like, the pair of them deserve better than this. And you're not as big a fan of Corbin as I am, as it turns out. But the pair of them deserve better than this, don't they? Like, there was this has been so poorly booked that there's not been what's progressed in these 5 matches at all.
Nothing. Like,
backed and forth to the point that I don't even know if this is finished because it's just another match where one of them's won.
Well, yeah, I think I'd like to hope if this was like for the crown or whatever, that has got to be surely it's got to be the end of it now. Maybe Corbin will just go back to being a Baron again. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's not good.
Did we have 5 matches of nothingness just so we can call him Baron Corbin again? Is that all this was for?
Probably, yes.
I just hope he doesn't slip back into a managerial role, for fuck's sake.
Oh, don't.
He was just not a good GM.
Just don't even.
So yeah, that's literally the only shit I want to mention. Everything else was there. There was some bits you could be annoyed by, but that was the most offensive one for me. But again, you take Roman Reigns out of SmackDown, and SmackDown's not got a lot left. Really hasn't. And this was my least favoured of the. We can't even put Raw in like the rankings anymore with these. Of the 3 good shows, this was my least favourite. So on that basis, it wasn't. I'm gonna give it, a 1.5. I think, because I do think the other 2 deserve to be that point difference in how much better they were. There was some really good stuff here, but it wasn't a great show overall. Just had one particularly good main event. So yeah, 1.5. 1.5, I think.
I'm gonna put it on par with the others. there just wasn't enough happening, was there? Obviously, the main event was good, but it took up the bulk of the show. The other stuff that happened, well, yeah, it just kind of happened. If it wasn't for that Hell in a Cell, it would have been worse, probably significantly worse. So 1.5 I will give it, which puts it on par with everything except Raw, which is shite. So yeah.
Also, I thought it was a surprisingly ballsy move to just not bother having a women's match at all, by the way.
Yeah, it's interesting
Bianca
that because
Belair got to cut a promo and have some shenanigans with Bayley, but we didn't actually have a match that featured any women's wrestlers. That was interesting.
You've got to wonder, because if you actually look at the Hell in a Cell card, there was a 6-match card, and there was 3 women's matches on it and 3 men's, but the pre-show also featured a women's match. So it was the first ever pay-per-view to have more women's matches on it than men's. That wasn't a solely women's pay-per-view. So maybe that was a deliberate thing to, I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah.
Or just they're like, well, fuck it.
Like, we don't even know what we're doing anymore.
Well, yeah, that's definitely accurate.
So that was SmackDown, and that was This Week in Wrestling.
And this is some cool people talking some good things about us.
You're watching or listening
to A to the K.
The A to the K.
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 These guys are awesome. Check it out.
Check it out. Change your life. You'll be thanking me later.